Little endgame situation here. I've got an extra pawn and it's a passed pawn, and just show you the value of it. Now I'd already brought my rook over so that I could bring it down to this square, because it was the only way of protecting that pawn like that. So that pawn is protected for now, for this one move. And that pawn is absolutely crucial to the game. But normally the passed pawn is crucial to the game because it's so threatening to become a queen. But this one becomes crucial to the game because it becomes part of a trap. He grabs this one instead, and I come over to here so that now it's very difficult to shift me from protecting that pawn. And now he's eyeing that black square in front of my king to try and check me on at some point. I bring my bishop here just so that it can stop his pawn from advancing, that f pawn from advancing.
Check.
And he checks me. Unfortunately, with this move, he's got to lose a piece. If I don't take the rook, if his rook moves away, then his bishop will fall, and that's what happens. So his rook goes to eye my pawn, and I got the bishop, but he still can't even take that pawn. And he can't now advance the pawn on my rook to shift it from there because of my bishop pinning his king.
Check.
So it gives me another check, chases me up,
check,
chases me up. And now he comes over here to sort of get with the king in some sort of attempt to, shift things around with his king and rook combined. He's got to try and get the king and rook working together. The king is the only piece he's got apart from the rook. So now I'm attacking his pair of pawns there, with the idea being that when my rook takes that pawn and it moves out the way, I can use a windmill effect to steal something else. So he's got to move there, no choice. And now things are not looking too wonderful for him. Where is he going to move that rook to? Where should he have moved the rook to? I would have moved it probably to g7, but he moves it here, and this is a fatal error. I come over here just to defend the pawn. I could equally have moved forward a square. Now his king moves out the way, and I move up here. My plan being to try and eat these two pawns, or at least threaten eating these two pawns. So I've committed to that side, so now he can advance this side. Now that has opened up this sort of diagonal here. Now I'm hoping that he'll move this pawn yet a further square so that I can get my rook across a square, one square across to one file across, and then use my bishop to check his king and rook at the same time. You see on that g2 square. But that never... So I moved here. I wasted a move on purpose, hoping he would move that pawn another. He didn't. He moved his king up here. And then I suddenly realised that I could still do this anyway, and that if his rook doesn't run, it's going to have a real problem. So his rook should have moved well across to the king. He didn't. He moved up here. He decided that he would really threaten my bishop, and then this move just traps him in amber. There's nothing he can do. Nothing he can do. His king comes forward, my king moved, and he resigned on this point because probably realised that his king cannot move forward to support that f-pawn. In fact, I would have sacrificed my rook on that f-pawn quite happily, because I still would have managed to queen one of the pawns on where my king is. Because if his king helps down on that side, then he can't be two sides at once. So it was just an interesting little trap there at the top corner. The way that his rook got trapped in there. So comes up to join the king, push, goes across. My rook goes across. Kind of irrelevant, but waste a move. King comes to here, But from this position here, if you move up to the bishop, you're going to get trapped in this net of bishop supports pawn, pawn supports bishop.